This is the story of Eliza Monroe, a 26-year-old single mother who was about to discover that the universe keeps careful records of every act of kindness, and that sometimes it pays back with interest. But first, she would have to survive the longest night of her life. The kitchen was dark. The electricity had been shut off 2 days ago. Eliza sat on the cold floor, her back against the refrigerator that no longer hummed, holding her 8-month-old daughter Lily against her chest. The baby was crying, not the sharp, angry cry of a child who wanted attention. This was different. This was the weak, exhausted whimper of hunger. Eliza had nothing left. She had sold her mother's ring last week for grocery money. She had pawned her laptop, the one she used for her freelance design work, for rent. She had returned cans and bottles, collected coins from the couch cushions, and even asked her landlord for an extension. He had given her until Friday. Today was Wednesday. And now at 11:43 at night, with her daughter starving in her arms, she was doing the one thing she had sworn never to do again. She was asking Ben for help. Ben was Lily's father. He was also the man who had walked out on Eliza the moment she told him she was pregnant. He had called her careless, irresponsible. He had accused her of trying to trap him. And then he had disappeared. For 8 months, she had raised Lily alone. She had worked 3 jobs while pregnant. She had given birth in a hospital where no one held her hand. She had brought her daughter home to an empty apartment and whispered promises she wasn't sure she could keep. "I'll take care of you," she had said, touching her daughter's tiny fingers. "I'll always take care of you." But tonight, she was failing. Her phone screen glowed in the darkness as she typed the message. Her fingers trembled. Her pride screamed at her to stop, to find another way, to do anything other than beg the man who had abandoned her. But pride couldn't feed a hungry baby. She typed, "Please, I'm begging you. My baby hasn't eaten in 2 days. I need $40 for formula. I'll pay you back, I swear. Please, Ben." She hit send without checking the number. She didn't realize that when she had gotten a new phone last month, a cheap prepaid phone after her real phone was stolen, she had entered Ben's number wrong. 1 digit. Just one. Instead of Ben's number, she had saved the number of a complete stranger. A stranger named Marcus Reed. A stranger who was, at that very moment, sitting in the living room of his $12 million penthouse, staring at his phone with an expression that shifted from confusion to curiosity, to something deeper, something that looked almost like recognition. Marcus Reed was 51 years old. He was the founder and CEO of Reed Technologies, a software company worth over $3 billion. He had been on the cover of Forbes twice. He had dined with presidents. He had given millions to charity. But tonight, alone in his penthouse, he wasn't thinking about any of that. He was thinking about a woman at a gas station, a woman with tired eyes and a gentle smile, a woman who had done something that still haunted him 3 weeks later. She had given him her last $10. Marcus had been at that gas station because of a bet, a stupid bet with his old college roommate David, who had challenged him to spend 1 week living like a regular person. No credit cards, no assistants, no drivers, just $100 in cash and his own 2 feet. David's argument was that Marcus had become disconnected from reality. "You don't even know what bread costs anymore," David had said. "You've lost touch with regular people, with struggle, with humanity." Marcus had accepted the challenge mostly to prove David wrong. He had lasted exactly 6 days before running out of money. On the 7th day, he found himself standing outside a gas station in a run-down neighborhood, genuinely hungry for the first time in 30 years. He had looked rough. His designer stubble had grown into an unkempt beard. His clothes, expensive but deliberately casual for the experiment, were wrinkled and dirty. He hadn't showered properly in days. He looked, for all purposes, like a homeless man. And that's when she appeared. A young woman with strawberry blonde hair and exhausted eyes, carrying a baby on her hip. She was buying a small container of formula at the gas station counter, carefully counting out coins and crumpled bills. Marcus could see her hands shaking as she realized she was $3 short. The cashier, a bored teenager, had shrugged. "Sorry, can't help you." The woman's face had crumbled, just for a moment. Just enough for Marcus to see the desperation behind her careful composure. She had started to put the formula back on the shelf. That's when Marcus had done something out of character. He had approached her. "Excuse me," he had said. "I couldn't help but notice." She had stiffened immediately, pulling her baby closer, her eyes going hard. "I don't need help." "No, I said I don't need help." Her voice was firm but not unkind. "Thank you anyway." She had left the store without the formula. Marcus had stood there, stunned by his own awkwardness. He had wanted to help, but he had fumbled it. His wealth had always made things easy. He wrote checks, made donations, sent assistance. He had forgotten how to simply talk to people. He had walked outside, planning to find her, to explain. But what he saw stopped him cold. She was standing by an old pickup truck talking to an elderly man who was clearly struggling. The man was sitting on the curb, his clothes threadbare, his hands shaking. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. And this woman, who couldn't afford formula for her own baby, was reaching into her wallet. Marcus watched as she pulled out a $10 bill, her last $10 bill. He knew it was her last because he had seen her counting at the register. He knew she needed that money desperately, but she pressed it into the old man's hand anyway. "Please," she had said. "Get yourself something warm to eat. There's a diner down the street." The old man had looked at her with tears in his eyes. "Miss, I can't take this. You have a baby." "Babies are resilient," she had said, smiling even though her eyes were wet. "My daughter has eaten today. You haven't. Please, it would make me feel better." She hadn't known that Marcus was watching. She hadn't known that the elderly man she was helping was actually Marcus himself, disguised by a week of rough living and genuine exhaustion. She hadn't known that, in that moment, she had restored something in him that he thought was long dead. Faith. Faith in humanity. Faith in the existence of genuine goodness. Marcus had tried to refuse the money. He had tried to explain. But she was already walking away, climbing into her old truck with her baby, driving off before he could say another word. He had been left standing there, holding a crumpled $10 bill, feeling something he hadn't felt in years: shame. Shame at his own wealth, his own disconnection, his own failure to be the kind of person who would give away their last $10 to a stranger. He had kept that $10 bill. It was in his wallet right now, a reminder of what real generosity looked like. And now, 3 weeks later, at 11:47 at night, he was staring at a text message from an unknown number. "Please, I'm begging you. My baby hasn't eaten in 2 days. I need $40 for formula. I'll pay you back, I swear. Please, Ben." Marcus stared at the message for a long time. His logical mind said it was probably a scam, a wrong number, someone trying to guilt money out of strangers. But something about it felt familiar. The desperation, the specific amount, not thousands, not hundreds, just $40. The promise to pay back. The name, Ben. He typed back, "I think you have the wrong number." The response came immediately. "Oh God, I'm so sorry. Please ignore. Wrong number." That should have been the end of it. Marcus should have set his phone down and gone to bed. He had meetings in the morning, deals to close, a company to run, but he couldn't stop thinking about that message. A baby who hadn't eaten in 2 days. He thought about the woman at the gas station, the way she had counted her coins so carefully, the formula she couldn't afford, the way she had given her last $10 to someone she thought needed it more. He typed again, "Wait, don't hang up. Is your baby really hungry?" Eliza stared at the message from the stranger. Her first instinct was to ignore it. Don't engage with random numbers. That's what every safety article said. But something about the question, the genuine concern behind it, made her pause. She typed, "It doesn't matter. I'm sorry for bothering you. Have a good night." The response came quickly. "It matters. Is your baby hungry?" Eliza's eyes filled with tears. She looked down at Lily, who had finally fallen into a fitful sleep against her chest. She was so hungry that she was too tired to cry anymore. "Yes," Eliza typed, "but I'm figuring it out. Please don't worry. I shouldn't have texted anyone." "Where are you located?" Eliza hesitated. She shouldn't share her location with a stranger. That was dangerous. That was stupid. But something about this conversation felt different. This didn't feel like a predator. This felt like someone who genuinely wanted to help. Or maybe she was just so desperate that she was willing to take any risk. "Why?" She typed back. "Because I want to help, and I can help, but I need to know where to send supplies." Eliza's heart pounded. This was crazy. This was absolutely crazy. But her baby was hungry. Her baby had been crying for hours. Her baby needed food. "I don't know you," she typed. "You could be anyone." "You're right," came the response. "I could be anyone, but I'm not asking for anything from you. I'm offering no strings, no expectations, just help." A long pause, then, "Tell me what kind of formula your baby needs. I'll have it delivered within the hour." Eliza started crying. Not soft, quiet tears, but deep, heaving sobs that she tried to muffle so she wouldn't wake Lily. She cried because she was exhausted. She cried because she was scared. She cried because a complete stranger was showing her more kindness than anyone had in months. She typed the formula brand with shaking fingers. She typed her address before she could talk herself out of it. And then she waited. Marcus moved quickly. He had an assistant, several actually, but he didn't call any of them. This felt personal. This felt like something he needed to do himself. He opened an app on his phone and ordered supplies from a 24-hour delivery service. Not just formula, diapers, baby food, wipes, everything a mother might need. The total came to $800 before he added a note. "Leave at door, do not knock, baby sleeping." Then he did something else. Something that surprised even him. He transferred $5,000 to the Venmo account attached to the phone number. His phone buzzed almost immediately. "What is this? This is way too much. I can't accept this." He typed, "Consider it a gift for you and your daughter." "I didn't ask for charity. I just needed formula. I'll pay you back for that, but I can't take $5,000 from a stranger." Marcus smiled despite himself. Pride. Even now, even desperate, she had pride. "It's not charity," he typed. "It's an investment." An investment in what? He thought about the gas station, the $10 bill, the way she had smiled even while giving away money she couldn't afford to lose. "In kindness," he typed. "You'd be surprised how rare it is." Eliza stared at the screen for a long time. $5,000, that would pay off her late utility bills, that would buy groceries for months, that would give her breathing room, time to find a better job, time to get back on her feet. But she couldn't take it. "Please me," she typed. "I appreciate it more than you know, but I can only accept the formula. Send me the cost, and I'll pay you back when I can." There was no response for several minutes. Then, "You're not going to change your mind, are you?" "No. I respect that. But will you at least let me send the supplies? No charge. Consider it a random act of kindness." Eliza thought about it. Random acts of kindness, that was something she believed in. That was something she practiced, even when she couldn't afford to. The $10 she had given to that old man at the gas station, she had never regretted that. Not once. Maybe this was the universe paying her back. "Okay," she typed. "Thank you. Really. I don't know how to thank you." "You just did. Take care of your daughter. Good night." The supplies arrived 47 minutes later. 2 massive boxes, filled with more baby supplies than Eliza had ever owned at once. Premium formula, organic baby food, diapers in 3 different sizes, a soft blanket, a stuffed elephant. Eliza sat on the floor of her dark apartment surrounded by these gifts from a stranger and cried until she had no tears left. And in his penthouse across town, Marcus Reed stood at his window looking out at the city lights, thinking about a crumpled $10 bill in his wallet and wondering if he would ever see that woman again. He didn't know that he already had. The next 3 weeks were strange for Eliza. She found herself thinking about the mysterious stranger more than she wanted to admit. She had texted thank you messages the morning after the delivery, but he, she assumed it was a he, had only responded with brief, kind words. "Glad I could help. Take care of yourself." She had tried to ask his name. He hadn't answered. She had tried to ask how she could repay him. He had said, "Pay it forward someday." And then he had stopped responding altogether. Eliza told herself it didn't matter. A stranger had helped her in her darkest moment. That was enough. She didn't need to know who he was or why he had done it. Some questions didn't need answers, but she couldn't stop wondering. Meanwhile, her life slowly improved. She found a part-time job at a local bakery, working early morning shifts, while a kind elderly neighbor watched Lily. The pay wasn't great, but the owner, a woman named Margaret, often sent Eliza home with leftover bread and pastries. She caught up on her electric bill. The lights came back on. She found a second job doing freelance design work on her rebuilt laptop, bought used from a pawn shop with some of her savings. Things weren't perfect. They were still hard. But they were getting better. Then, exactly 1 month after the mysterious text exchange, something happened that would change everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Eliza had just finished her bakery shift and was picking up Lily from Mrs. Chen's apartment down the hall. She was tired, but hopeful. She had just landed a small design contract that would pay $500, enough to get ahead on rent for the first time in months. As she walked toward her building, juggling Lily and her bag and her coffee, she noticed a commotion near the entrance. A sleek black car was parked illegally at the curb. A man in an expensive suit was arguing with someone on the phone while pacing back and forth. Eliza tried to walk past, minding her own business, but as she approached, the man suddenly stopped pacing. He looked up. His eyes met hers, and his face went completely white. "It's you," he breathed. Eliza froze. She had never seen this man before in her life. He was tall, distinguished, with salt and pepper hair and intense gray eyes. His suit probably cost more than her annual income. He looked like someone from a completely different world. "I'm sorry," she said, clutching Lily tighter. "Do I know you?" The man seemed to be struggling to speak. He was staring at her like he was seeing a ghost. "The gas station," he finally managed. 3 weeks, no, almost 2 months ago now. You gave me $10. Eliza's heart stopped. She remembered that day. She remembered the old man on the curb, hungry and alone. She remembered giving him her last $10 even though she couldn't afford to. She remembered his face, tired, unshaven, desperate. She looked at the man in front of her now, clean-shaven, immaculately dressed, standing next to a car that probably cost more than her apartment building. This couldn't be the same person. "I don't understand," she said slowly. The man laughed, a short, disbelieving laugh. "I don't either. I've been trying to find you for weeks. I hired investigators. I checked every database I could access, and now you're just here, standing in front of me. You're not making any sense." Eliza took a step back. "I think you have me confused with someone else. Strawberry blonde hair, tired eyes, a baby girl with a pink blanket. You were buying formula at a gas station, but you were short. You put it back. And then outside you gave your last $10 to what you thought was a homeless man." He paused. "That homeless man was me." Eliza's mind reeled. This was impossible. This was absolutely impossible. "Why would a man who owns—" She gestured at the car, the suit, all of it. "Why would someone like you be at a gas station looking homeless?" "Long story," he said. "Stupid bet. Longer story." He took a step toward her, and she instinctively stepped back. He stopped, raising his hands. I'm sorry, I'm scaring you. That's the last thing I want to do. Lily chose that moment to start fussing. Eliza shifted her daughter to her other hip, her mind racing. This was too much. This was too strange. She needed to get inside, away from this man, away from this confusion. I have to go, she said. Wait, please. His voice was urgent but not threatening. That text message, the one asking for formula money, that was you, wasn't it? Eliza froze again. How could he know about that? Unless... You, she whispered. You're the one who sent the supplies. He nodded slowly. When I got that text, I didn't know it was you. I thought it was just a wrong number. But something about it, I couldn't ignore it. A baby who hadn't eaten in 2 days. I had to help. But you offered $5,000. You didn't even know me. I knew that you had given me your last $10 when you thought I was a stranger in need. That told me everything I needed to know about what kind of person you were. He paused, and I was right. Eliza didn't know what to say. She stood there on the sidewalk, holding her daughter, staring at this man who had somehow appeared at the intersection of all the strangest moments in her recent life. My name is Marcus Reed, he said finally, and I've been looking for you since the day you walked away from that gas station. The name meant nothing to her. She didn't follow business news. She didn't know about his company, or his net worth, or his appearances in Forbes. I'm Eliza, she said quietly. Eliza Monroe. Eliza. He said her name like he was memorizing it. I know we don't know each other. I know this is strange. I know you have every reason to walk away right now and never speak to me again. He took a breath. But would you consider having coffee with me? Just coffee. Just a conversation. I want to understand. Understand what? How someone who has so little can give so much. How you can be drowning and still reach out to save someone else. His eyes were intense, searching. I've spent my whole life around people who take, people who calculate every kindness like a transaction. And then you came along, and you gave a stranger your last $10, and you wouldn't even let me say thank you. Eliza looked at him for a long moment. Every instinct told her to be careful. This man was clearly wealthy, clearly powerful. She didn't know his motives. She didn't know what he wanted. But she also remembered the boxes of supplies that had arrived at her door in the middle of the night. The formula that had fed her daughter, the kindness of a stranger who asked for nothing in return. One coffee, she said finally, but somewhere public, and I'm bringing Lily. Marcus's face broke into a smile, the first genuine smile he had worn in longer than he could remember. Absolutely, he said. There's a cafe on the corner. They have high chairs. I checked. You checked? I've been coming to this neighborhood for 3 weeks, hoping I'd run into you. I may have memorized every family-friendly establishment within a 6-block radius. He looked almost embarrassed. That sounds obsessive, doesn't it? I promise I'm not a stalker. I'm just grateful. And I wanted the chance to tell you that. Despite herself, Eliza laughed. It was a small laugh, rusty from disuse, but real. Okay, Marcus Reed, she said, let's get that coffee. They walked to the cafe together, this strange pair, the billionaire in his expensive suit and the young mother in her flour-dusted bakery uniform. People stared. Eliza pretended not to notice. The cafe was small but warm, with exposed brick walls and the smell of fresh coffee. Marcus pulled out a chair for her, then went to the counter to order while she settled Lily into a high chair. When he returned with 2 lattes and a plate of cookies, Eliza was smiling at something Lily was doing with a napkin. She's beautiful, Marcus said softly, sitting across from her. She looks like you. Thank you. Eliza's hand instinctively went to Lily's tiny hand. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. Her father? Not in the picture. Eliza's voice was flat, final. By his choice. Marcus nodded slowly. He didn't push. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their strange connection hanging between them. Then Eliza spoke. Why were you pretending to be homeless? Marcus sighed, running a hand through his silver-streaked hair. My college roommate David, my oldest friend, accused me of being disconnected from reality. He said I'd lost touch with what regular life was like, with struggle, with genuine human interaction. He bet me I couldn't survive a week on $100 with no safety net. And you took that bet? Pride. He smiled ruefully. I wanted to prove him wrong. Instead, I proved him right. What do you mean? On the seventh day, I ran out of money. I was genuinely hungry, genuinely struggling, and I realized I had no idea how to cope. I've built $1 billion company, Eliza. I've solved problems that confounded entire industries. But I couldn't figure out how to get a meal when I had no money and no connections. Eliza nodded slowly. That's when I found you. That's when you found me, sitting outside a gas station, feeling sorry for myself. He looked down at his coffee. And you who could barely afford formula for your daughter, you gave me your last $10, without hesitation, without expecting anything in return. You looked like you needed it. I did need it, more than I realized at the time. He met her eyes. You reminded me that wealth isn't the only measure of richness, that there's something money can't buy, and you had it in abundance. Eliza felt her cheeks warm. I was just being a decent person. Decent? Marcus laughed softly. Eliza, I know people worth hundreds of millions of dollars who wouldn't give a dime to someone they thought was beneath them. What you did wasn't decent. It was extraordinary. Lily banged her hands on the high chair tray, demanding attention. Eliza automatically handed her a cookie, watching as her daughter gnawed on it happily. So what happens now? She asked quietly. You found me. You thanked me. Coffee is had. What next? Marcus was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about that, he admitted. When I was looking for you, I told myself I just wanted to say thank you, to repay your kindness somehow. But now that you're here, he trailed off. What? Eliza prompted. I realize that's not enough. He leaned forward. Eliza, I don't know your full story. I don't know what challenges you're facing or what your dreams are or what you want out of life. But I know you're struggling. I know you're raising a child alone. I know you have more integrity in your little finger than most people have in their entire bodies. Marcus, let me help you. His voice was urgent. Not charity. I know you wouldn't accept that. You already proved that when you refused the $5,000. He paused. Let me offer you a job instead. Eliza blinked. A job? My company has a foundation, the Reed Foundation. We fund programs for families in crisis, single parents trying to get back on their feet, children in need. But honestly, we're not very good at it. We throw money at problems without really understanding them. We're disconnected from the people we're trying to help. He leaned back. I need someone who understands what struggle actually looks like. Someone who can bridge the gap between our resources and the people who need them. Someone who can tell us where we're going wrong. You want to hire me? Eliza said slowly. Because I was poor enough to give away my last $10? I want to hire you because you were compassionate enough to give away your last $10. He smiled. And because you were stubborn enough to refuse $5,000 from a stranger. Eliza didn't know what to say. A job. A real job, presumably with a real salary, at a company run by a billionaire. This was the kind of thing that happened in movies, not in real life. I don't have a college degree, she said finally. I couldn't afford to finish. I dropped out of college myself, Marcus replied. Didn't stop me from building a company. I don't have experience in nonprofit work. I'm a graphic designer, a baker's assistant, a mom. All of which are more qualifications than half the people on my foundation board. He leaned forward again. Eliza, I'm not asking you to run the organization. I'm asking you to help us understand the people we're trying to serve, to be a voice for families like yours, to make sure we're not just writing checks and patting ourselves on the back. Lily dropped her cookie on the floor. Eliza bent to pick it up, using the moment to think, a job, real money, stability, the chance to help other families going through what she had gone through. It sounded too good to be true. In her experience, things that sounded too good to be true usually were. What's the catch? She asked. Marcus's expression softened. No catch. Starting salary of $65,000. Full benefits, including health care for you and Lily. Flexible hours, so you can be there for your daughter. He paused. And a small apartment above our foundation offices. If you need it, rent-free for the first year. Eliza felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back fiercely. Why, she managed. Why would you do all this for someone you don't even know? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with something that sounded almost like grief. My wife died 8 years ago, he said. Cancer. She was the one who kept me grounded, who reminded me that money wasn't everything, who made me give to charity not for the tax benefits, but because it was right. He swallowed. After she died, I lost my way. I became exactly the person David accused me of being, disconnected, transactional, cold. He looked up at her. And then you gave me $10 and reminded me what she used to say, that the measure of a person isn't what they have, but what they give. Eliza didn't know what to say. The pain in his voice was real. The grief was genuine. I'm sorry about your wife, she said softly. Thank you. He took a breath. So that's my why. You reminded me of someone I loved very much, and you showed me that the world still has people in it who are worth believing in. I can't bring my wife back, but I can honor her memory by helping someone who deserves it. Lily reached for Eliza, wanting to be held. Eliza picked her up, cradling her daughter against her chest. Can I think about it? She asked. It's a lot to take in. Of course. Marcus pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. Take all the time you need. My direct line is on the back. Call me whenever you're ready. Eliza took the card. Marcus Reed, CEO, Reed Technologies. The logo was elegant and expensive looking. One more question, she said. Anything. That day at the gas station after I gave you the money, what did you do? Marcus smiled, a real smile, full of warmth. I went to the diner you mentioned. I bought a cup of coffee with your $10, and I sat there for 2 hours watching regular people live their regular lives. He paused. It was the best cup of coffee I'd ever had. Eliza laughed despite herself. You're strange, Marcus Reed. I've been told that before. He stood up, preparing to leave. Thank you for the coffee, Eliza Monroe. I hope I hear from you soon. He walked out of the cafe, leaving Eliza sitting there with her daughter, a business card, and 1,000 thoughts racing through her mind. That night, Eliza couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed, Lily snoring softly in the crib beside her, and stared at Marcus Reed's business card in the moonlight. $65,000 a year, benefits, an apartment, the chance to help other families. It was everything she had dreamed of, everything she had prayed for. It was literally the answer to her prayers. So, why did she hesitate? Because life had taught her to be suspicious of gifts. Because she had learned the hard way that nothing came without strings. Because Ben had once promised her the world too, and look how that had turned out. But Marcus wasn't Ben. Marcus hadn't abandoned her at the first sign of difficulty. Marcus had sent supplies to a stranger in the middle of the night. Marcus had refused to take back his $5,000 even when she demanded it. Marcus had lost his wife and found a way to keep her memory alive through kindness. Eliza thought about her own mother, who had died when Eliza was 19. Her mother had been poor too, a single mom who worked double shifts and wore the same 3 dresses for years. But she had always had time for kindness, always had coins for the homeless, and soup for the neighbors, and hugs for anyone who needed them. Always give what you can, her mother used to say, even if it's your last dollar, especially if it's your last dollar. That's when it matters most. Eliza had tried to live by those words. She had given her last $10 to a stranger at a gas station because it was what her mother would have done. And now somehow that act of kindness had led her here. Maybe, she thought, this was the universe's way of paying her back. Maybe this was her mother, looking down from somewhere, making sure her daughter and granddaughter would be okay. The next morning, Eliza called the number on the card. Marcus Reed's office, a professional voice answered. How may I direct your call? My name is Eliza Monroe. Mr. Reed gave me his card yesterday. One moment, please. There was a brief pause. Then Marcus's voice came on the line, warm, eager, maybe a little surprised. Eliza, I didn't expect to hear from you so soon. I've thought about your offer, she said, her heart pounding, and I have some conditions. I'm listening. First, I want to earn my position, no special treatment because of our history. If I'm not good at the job, you tell me. If I need training, I get the same training everyone else gets. Agreed. Second, I want to understand exactly what I'm getting into, the responsibilities, the expectations, the reporting structure, all of it, before I say yes. That's sensible. I'll arrange a full orientation. Third, she hesitated. This doesn't change things between us. I mean, I'm your employee, and you're my boss, that's all. There was a pause. Of course, professional boundaries. Good. Eliza took a breath. Then I accept your offer. She could hear the smile in his voice. You won't regret this, Eliza. I promise you. I'll hold you to that, Mr. Reed. Marcus. Please. Marcus. The name felt strange on her tongue, too familiar, but also somehow right. When do I start? How does Monday sound? That was 5 days away. Enough time to give notice at the bakery, enough time to pack up her tiny apartment, enough time to say goodbye to Mrs. Chen and thank her for all the babysitting. Monday sounds perfect, Eliza said. She hung up the phone and looked at Lily, who was playing with a stuffed elephant, the same elephant that had arrived in those boxes from the mysterious stranger. Well, baby girl, Eliza whispered, I think our lives just changed. Monday came faster than Eliza expected. She stood outside the Reed Foundation offices, a beautiful converted brownstone in the nicest part of the city, and tried not to feel intimidated. She was wearing her best dress, which wasn't very expensive, and had carefully styled her hair for the first time in months. Lily was with Mrs. Chen, who had agreed to continue babysitting, even though Eliza was moving across town. The door opened, and a young woman with a warm smile greeted her. You must be Eliza. I'm Vanessa, the foundation director. Marcus, Mr. Reed, told us to expect you. Nice to meet you. Eliza shook her hand, noting the genuine friendliness in Vanessa's eyes. Let me give you the tour and explain how we operate. For the next 2 hours, Vanessa walked Eliza through the Foundation's programs, emergency family assistance, single-parent support services, educational scholarships, housing aid. The work was meaningful. The people were dedicated. But Eliza also noticed problems. The application process for assistance was complicated, requiring documentation that desperate families often couldn't provide. The outreach programs focused on areas where need was visible, but missed hidden pockets of poverty in seemingly nice neighborhoods. The staff, while well-meaning, had clearly never experienced the struggles they were trying to address. By noon, Eliza's head was spinning with ideas. So, Vanessa said, leading her to a small but comfortable office, this is your space. Marcus said your official title is community liaison, but honestly, he wants you to be our reality check, someone who can tell us when we're getting it wrong. Did he actually use those words? His exact words were, Eliza Monroe is going to tell us all the ways we're failing, and we're going to listen to her. Vanessa grinned. I think he likes you. He barely knows me. Sometimes that's enough. Vanessa glanced at her watch. Speaking of which, he asked me to send you up to his office when you're settled. Top floor. Take the elevator all the way up. Eliza's stomach tightened. Now? Whenever you're ready. No rush. But Eliza knew she couldn't put it off. She took the elevator to the top floor, stepped into a sleek reception area, and gave her name to the assistant. Go right in, the assistant said. He's expecting you. Marcus's office was enormous, but surprisingly warm. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The furniture was expensive, but comfortable. On his desk, next to the computer and stacks of papers, was a framed photo of a dark-haired woman with a radiant smile. His wife, Eliza realized. Marcus stood as she entered. "Eliza, welcome. Please sit." She sat in one of the chairs across from his desk. He didn't sit behind the desk. He pulled another chair around so they were facing each other. No barrier between them. "How was your first morning?" "Overwhelming," she admitted. "But good. Your team is impressive." "They try, but we have blind spots." He leaned forward. "Tell me honestly, what did you see that we're getting wrong?" Eliza hesitated. This was her first day. She didn't want to come across as critical or ungrateful. "It's okay," Marcus said gently. "I didn't hire you to tell me what I want to hear. I hired you to tell me the truth." So she told him about the application process, about the outreach gaps, about the disconnect between the staff's perspective and the reality of poverty. Marcus listened without interrupting. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "These are exactly the kinds of insights I was hoping for," he smiled. "You're going to be very valuable here, Eliza." "I hope so. I know so." He stood up, moving to the window. "I want to ask you something personal. You don't have to answer if you're not comfortable." "Okay. What happened with Lily's father? You said he's not in the picture by his choice. What does that mean?" Eliza felt her chest tighten. This wasn't a professional question, but Marcus had shared his own pain with her, his wife, his grief. Maybe it was fair that she share some of hers. "His name is Ben," she said quietly. "We dated for 2 years. When I got pregnant, he said I was trying to trap him. He called me irresponsible. He said if I kept the baby, I was on my own." She paused. "So I kept the baby, and I've been on my own ever since." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "He's a fool. Maybe. But I'm also grateful. If he had stayed, I might never have discovered how strong I am." She met Marcus's eyes. "Everything I've survived has made me who I am. I wouldn't change that." "That's a remarkably mature perspective." "It's survival. When you don't have the luxury of falling apart, you find ways to keep going." Marcus nodded slowly. "My wife used to say something similar. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. You just have to jump." "She sounds wise." She was. His voice caught slightly. "She would have liked you, Eliza, very much." The moment stretched between them, not uncomfortable, but charged with something neither of them could name. Then Marcus cleared his throat. "Well, I should let you get back to work, but my door is always open, literally. If you need anything, if you have questions, if you just want to talk, I'm here." "Thank you, Marcus." She left his office, her mind churning. This job was going to be more complicated than she'd imagined. But complicated wasn't necessarily bad. The weeks turned into months. Eliza threw herself into her work with a passion she hadn't felt in years. She redesigned the application process, making it simpler and more accessible. She expanded outreach to overlooked neighborhoods. She trained staff on the real-world challenges their clients faced, and slowly the foundation began to change. Success rates improved. More families got help. More children got fed. More single parents found their footing. Marcus noticed everything. He praised her publicly at board meetings. He sought her opinion on major decisions. He trusted her judgment in ways that surprised both of them. Their professional relationship deepened into something more complex. They had lunch together often, discussing work, but also life. He told her about his childhood, wealthy but lonely, raised by nannies while his parents traveled. She told him about hers, poor but full of love, raised by a mother who worked herself to the bone but always had time for a hug. They were from different worlds, but somehow they understood each other. Lily thrived in the apartment above the foundation offices. Eliza had enrolled her in a nearby daycare where she was the social queen of the toddler room. She said her first word, Mama, at 11 months. She took her first steps at 13 months. Every milestone felt like a victory, and through it all, Marcus was there, not intrusively, but consistently. He remembered Lily's birthday and sent a gift, an age-appropriate educational toy, not too expensive, clearly, carefully chosen. He asked about her development. He offered to adjust Eliza's schedule if she needed more time at home. He was, Eliza realized, becoming something like a friend. But she also realized something else. She was falling in love with him. The realization hit her one morning when she walked into the foundation offices and found Marcus sitting in the lobby playing peekaboo with Lily while her babysitter watched, amused. His face, usually so serious, so controlled, was lit up with pure joy. Lily was giggling uncontrollably, reaching for him with chubby hands, and Eliza's heart contracted so sharply that she had to grab the doorframe to steady herself. "No," she told herself firmly, "this cannot happen. He's your boss. He's a billionaire. He's still grieving his wife. This is not an option." She buried the feeling deep, where she kept all the things she couldn't afford to want. But buried feelings have a way of surfacing when you least expect them. It happened at the Foundation's annual gala. Eliza didn't want to go. The gala was a black tie event for donors and board members, people who wore dresses that cost more than her annual grocery budget, and talked about their vacation homes in Switzerland. But Marcus insisted. "You're the heart of this foundation now," he said. "The donors should meet you. They should hear directly from you what their money accomplishes." So she went. She bought a simple black dress from a thrift store and had it altered to fit. She borrowed earrings from Vanessa. She left Lily with Mrs. Chen and took a cab to the downtown hotel where the gala was being held. The moment she walked in, she felt out of place. Everything was crystal and gold and champagne. Women dripped with diamonds. Men laughed too loudly about things she didn't understand. And then Marcus appeared at her side. "You came," he said, and the relief in his voice was palpable. "You didn't give me much choice." "You look beautiful." She felt her cheeks warm. "You don't have to say that. I never say things I don't mean." His eyes held hers. "You look beautiful, Eliza." The gala was overwhelming but manageable with Marcus by her side. He introduced her to donors with genuine pride. He let her tell her own story, the struggle, the kindness, the transformation. She watched as wealthy strangers wiped tears from their eyes and reached for their checkbooks. By the end of the night, the foundation had raised more money than any previous gala. "You were incredible," Marcus said as the guests began to leave. "Absolutely incredible." "I just told the truth. That's what made it incredible." He hesitated. Would you like to get some fresh air? There's a terrace upstairs." She should have said no. She should have gone home to her daughter, to her careful boundaries, to her professional distance. But she was tired of saying no to things that felt right. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that." The terrace overlooked the city, glittering with lights beneath them. Marcus handed her a glass of champagne, her first of the night, and they stood in companionable silence. "I need to tell you something," he said finally. "Okay. These past 8 months, working with you, watching you transform the foundation, seeing how you are with Lily, with the families we serve, it's changed me." "Marcus, let me finish." He turned to face her fully. "I didn't expect this. I hired you because I wanted to honor my wife's memory, because I owed you a debt for that $10, because you reminded me what kindness looked like." He paused. "I didn't expect to fall in love with you." The words hung in the air between them. Eliza's heart was pounding so hard she could barely hear herself think. "You can't," she managed. "I'm your employee. There are rules. There are expectations." "I know," his voice was steady. "I've thought about all of that. I've tried to talk myself out of this feeling for months." He took a step closer. "But I can't. And I don't think you can either." She should have denied it. She should have maintained her boundaries. She should have walked away. But she was so tired of walking away from things she wanted. "No," she whispered. "I can't." He reached for her hand. His fingers intertwined with hers. "So what do we do now?" she asked. "I don't know," he smiled softly. "But I know I don't want to do it without you." Below them, the city lights sparkled like fallen stars. Above them, the real stars were invisible, hidden by urban glow. But Eliza thought she could feel them anyway, feel the vast, improbable universe that had somehow brought her to this moment. A wrong number, a $10 bill, a stranger who wasn't really a stranger. And now, this. My mother used to say, she said slowly, that everything happens for a reason. I never really believed her. And now? She looked up at him, this man who had been a millionaire pretending to be homeless, a stranger who became a benefactor, a boss who became a friend. Now I'm starting to think she was right. Marcus smiled, and in that smile she saw everything he wasn't saying. The hope, the fear, the joy, the uncertainty. "Can I kiss you?" he asked softly. She answered by rising on her toes and pressing her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative. Two people who had been alone for too long, afraid to believe in something good. But then it deepened. His arms wrapped around her. Her hands found his shoulders, and for a moment all the complications and uncertainties fell away. There was only this. Two people who had found each other against impossible odds. When they finally separated, both a little breathless, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "I should tell you something else," he said. "More confessions?" "Just one." He pulled back slightly, reaching into his jacket pocket. "I've been carrying this for 8 months, since the day you gave it to me." He opened his palm. Lying there, creased and faded, was a $10 bill. "I kept it," he said, "as a reminder of you, of kindness, of what I wanted to become." Eliza stared at the bill. It was the same $10 she had pressed into the hand of a man she thought was a stranger, a man she thought needed it more than she did. Her eyes filled with tears. "You're ridiculous," she said, laughing through her tears. "It's $10. It's not about the money." He closed his hand around it. It never was. She understood then, really understood, what that simple act had meant to him. How it had shattered his assumptions about people. How it had reminded him of his wife. How it had set in motion everything that followed. A $10 bill. A wrong text message. A billionaire who had lost his way. A single mother who never stopped giving. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of poetry. 2 years later, Eliza stood at the altar of a small church, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Lily, now 3 years old, was the flower girl, scattering petals with enthusiastic imprecision. Marcus waited at the front, tears already streaming down his face. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. No donors, no board members, no press. Just people who loved them. When Eliza reached him, Marcus took her hands. "I can't believe we're here," he whispered. "I can," she smiled. "My mother told me that everything happens for a reason. I think this is what she meant." The ceremony was simple. The vows were personal. When they kissed as husband and wife, Lily clapped and shouted, "Yay, Mommy! Yay, Daddy!" Marcus had officially adopted Lily 3 months earlier. She called him Daddy now, and every time she said it, his heart grew 3 sizes. At the reception, held in the Reed Foundation's garden, Vanessa raised a toast. "To Eliza and Marcus," she said, "proof that the smallest acts of kindness can change everything, and that sometimes wrong numbers lead to exactly the right place." Everyone laughed, everyone drank, everyone celebrated. And later, when the party had wound down and the guests had gone home, Marcus and Eliza sat on a bench in the garden, Lily asleep in her father's arms. "Happy?" Marcus asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible." Eliza leaned her head on his shoulder. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "That day at the gas station when I gave you my last $10. I almost didn't. I almost walked away." Marcus looked at her. "What stopped you?" "I thought about my mother, what she would have done, what she taught me about kindness." Eliza smiled. "I decided to be the person she raised me to be." "I'm glad you did." "Me too." They sat in silence, watching the stars that were finally visible now that the city lights had dimmed. "You know," Marcus said eventually, "I've been thinking about expanding the Foundation's mission, starting a program specifically for single parents, emergency funds, job training, child care support." "That sounds amazing. I want you to lead it." Eliza looked up at him, surprised. "Me? Who better? You've lived it, you understand it, and you have the credibility to make it work." He paused. "I was thinking we could call it the Sarah Monroe Program, after your mother." Eliza's eyes filled with tears for what felt like the 100th time that day. "Marcus, she raised someone extraordinary," he said softly. "Her legacy deserves to continue." In that moment, Eliza felt something she hadn't felt since her mother's death. The sense that her mother was there, watching, approving. "I would love that," she whispered, "more than you know." The Sarah Monroe Program launched the following spring. It helped 3,000 families in its first year alone. It became a model for similar programs across the country, and it all started with $10. A struggling single mother who gave away her last $10 to a stranger, a billionaire who had lost his way and found it again, a wrong text message in the middle of the night, a universe that for once seemed to be paying attention, because sometimes the smallest acts of kindness really do change everything. Sometimes being generous when you have nothing is more powerful than being generous when you have everything. Sometimes the moment you give up what you can least afford to lose is the moment your whole life begins again. Eliza never forgot that, and neither did anyone whose life she touched. After all, she had learned it from her mother, who had learned it from her mother before that. Kindness is a seed. You never know where it will grow. You never know who will be watching. You never know what doors it will open. All you can do is plant it, and trust that the universe knows what to do with the rest. The text message read, "Please, I'm begging you. My baby hasn't eaten in 2 days. I need $40 for formula. I'll pay you back, I swear. Please, Ben." But the message didn't go to Ben. It went to someone else entirely. Someone whose response would change everything. Someone she had already met, though she didn't know it yet. Someone who remembered her face, her kindness, and the crumpled $10 bill she had pressed into his palm at a gas station 3 weeks earlier.